Michigan is offering $10.5 million of nil money to recruit a quarterback. Plus, week 12 is here. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you get started with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. So Michigan is trying to flip a quarterback from LSU, and they're willing to pay a ton of money. Plus, we'll have our Week 12 preview, all the games coming up this weekend, and we'll go on the record with our Pigskin picks. But first, Michigan is willing to spend a record $10.5 million in nil money for a quarterback next season. A little more on that in just a second. First with Michigan. Nobody expected them to be as good as the 2023 15-0 national champions. But with some decent quarterback play, the Wolverines were expected to be better than average this year. But their quarterback play has not been decent. It's been a disaster with Alex Orji and Davis Warren and Jack Tuttle. None of them have worked. Hindsight's 2020, but first-year head coach Sherrone Moore made a fatal mistake. We did not go out and get a top quarterback in the transfer portal to replace J.J. McCarthy, who was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Moore and his staff thought that the culture and the Michigan way would just continue. The next man up mentality meant that their next quarterback was already on the roster, on the depth chart in the building, and ready to go. Wrong. Didn't work out too well. Now, Sherrone Moore, he can't afford to make that mistake again, or he's not going to be the head coach of Michigan much longer. All right, there are multiple reports now that Michigan has put together a name, image, and likeness package of more than $10 million to lure five-star quarterback Bryce Underwood to Ann Arbor. He's rated as the number one quarterback in the country and the number one overall player in the class of 2025. He's a big deal. Now, he has already verbally committed to Brian Kelly and LSU. But official signing day isn't until next month, and the Wolverines are feverishly trying to flip this kid from LSU to Michigan. Oh, did I mention that he's from Belleville, Michigan? It's 18 miles from Ann Arbor. Oh, did I mention that his coach at Belleville High School is Connor Stalions? Connor Stalions? The former Michigan assistant in the middle of the Spygate scandal last year that cost him his job and Jim Harbaugh a 3-game suspension? Yes. Connor Stalions. Connor Stalions, the guy that vowed he would do anything, anytime, anywhere for his beloved Michigan Wolverines. If you're wondering how strong Michigan's chances are at landing Bryce Underwood, know this. Michigan 4-star quarterback recruit Carter Smith from Bishop Verot in Fort Myers, Florida, had been verbally committed to Michigan since last fall when Jim Harbaugh was there, and he stuck with him through the coaching change and all of that. But he just decommitted 2 weeks ago, presumably because the Wolverines have been circling around Underwood. Word gets out. So they must be close if he gave up his commitment there. And $10 million is a good start. So just last week, I heard the number was only $5 million. And long before that, we heard guys like Barstool's Dave Portnoy, who's an avid Michigan fan. He was willing to pony up $3 million of his own money to get Michigan a quarterback next year. The fact is that this number is now at $10.5 million over 4 years, and that should send shockwaves throughout college football. Now, Michigan is stepping it up a notch. Michigan in the past under Harbaugh, yeah, they had nil money, but they recruited, Michigan. And they're like, come here and you'll have the opportunity to make some money. Here we are. Well, this is a whole nother level. Like, here's money. Come here and play for us. Again, that's kind of not the way nil was supposed to originally work, but that's what it has become everywhere. Just ask Ohio State, who pumped in $20 million to the roster this year. So $10 million for an 18-year-old kid to stay home and play in the big house in front of his friends and family. Stay tuned. Official signing day is right around the corner. I think we'll hear about this one sooner than later, and we'll be all over it here on Locked On Big Ten. All right. What we usually do on Fridays is we preview every team, every game. We got the slate of games going on in the Big Ten. Now, we do have some Friday night lights. We got UCLA and Washington. That is the 9 o'clock Eastern game, Friday night tonight, 6 o'clock Pacific on Fox. This might be a slugfest like the one it's going against. The old Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight is tonight, Friday night. We'll see how that pans out. UCLA has won 3 in a row. Hats off to Deshaun Foster, their head coach, for sticking with this situation and seeing it through. It looked unfixable the first half of the season. But the Bruins are showing some life. They got the running game going. TJ Harden rushing for a season-high 125 yards versus a stingy Iowa defense last week. But I was more impressed with the Bruins defense that held Caleb Johnson, Iowa's running back, to 49 yards on 18 carries. Johnson's a great running back. He can do 150 yards in his sleep. Didn't crack 50. They'll need more of that same kind of defense against the Huskies because they have a powerful running back as well in Jonah Coleman, who I've been very impressed with all year. Talk about him a lot here on this podcast. Now, Washington's coming off that 35-6 beatdown at the hands of Penn State during their annual whiteout game in front of 111,000 crazed fans. So they'll definitely enjoy returning home in front of the home fans there at Husky Stadium. I mentioned last week how I'm not a fan of a 2-quarterback system. I usually believe that if you use 2 quarterbacks, it means you don't have one. But in this case, I think based on what I've seen so far this year, Coach Jed Fish should double down on the spelling of Will Rogers with the more athletic Damon Williams. I think it works. I think they should do it more back and forth. Husky fans, hit me up on that. I'd like to know your opinion on that as well. In fact, I'd love all of your comments, whether it's about the Huskies and UCLA on Friday night, whether you're a Michigan fan tuning in and hearing all this over the rumblings the past week or so about this nil deal and Michigan entering into the foray. Michigan on a bye week this week, by the way, so it's a good thing to talk about now. But anyway, love to hear from you all. Hit me up with the comments on YouTube. Let's get a conversation going back and forth. I'm just going to be sitting around watching games on the weekend, looking at all the comments. So hit me up. You do the comments on YouTube as well as Twitter. And don't forget our website. You can see it crawling on the bottom if you're on video here tonight. Couple of comments, but the website is talkbig10.com. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. And I want to remind you that we were going to be going live. We always go live on Saturdays after a key game. It'll be the Oregon Ducks, the number 1 Oregon Ducks on the road at Camp Randall taking on Wisconsin. As soon as that game's over, that's the 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, NBC Big Ten Saturday night game. As soon as that's over, we're going to go live here on YouTube, ready to go with my immediate reaction and analysis and your real-time comments as well. I always love that give and take part of that. So one of the fun parts of doing it. We'll do that on Saturday. So mark your calendars. Hope to see you there. In the meantime, if you could subscribe, if you haven't yet already, it's free. Just hit that little subscribe button. And we'll be on the same page each and every day as we're out here every day on Locked On Big Ten. Also ask you, and that's free, by the way. Subscribe. It's free. It's always free. Then come back later and charge you later, anything like that. Free subscriptions. Hit subscribe. And I'll also ask you to share and follow like Locked On Big Ten. If you know somebody that loves Big Ten that doesn't know we're out here every day, go ahead and share our podcast. Hit the share button and send it. Let them know we're out here. We would really appreciate it. So subscribe, follow, share, and like Locked On Big Ten. And that way you get the latest episode as soon as this podcast is available each and every day. All right, coming up, all the other teams on Saturday that are in action. Big Ten. Let's preview them. Let's talk about them. It's almost like this is the quiet before the storm, before things get really serious with the standings going into the final 2 weeks of the season. We will have all that coming up here in just 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Excited about this. Omaha Steaks, new sponsor. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score the extra $30 off a promo code college. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off statewide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners will get an extra $30 off with the promo code college, COLLEGE, and a $30 reward card when you shop early. Can't beat that. That's 50% off omahasteaks.com, OMAHA, omahasteaks.com, and an extra $30 off with the promo code college. Minimum purchase may apply. Again, at Omaha Steaks. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. You know, we're out here each and every day, but especially you everydayers out there that keep coming back. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, where we have all of our podcasts and also links to your favorite schools for your favorite school merchandise just in time for Christmas shopping. You got a friend that's an alum at a certain school, go ahead and get him a shirt, a t-shirt, a hat, a pennant for the wall, all that stuff right there at talkbig10.com. All right, let's get into the Saturday games here. We may have a couple blowouts in the Big Ten this week. I'm going to be honest. Let's start with this one. Ohio State and Northwestern. That's at 12 noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. One intriguing part of this game, it's at Wrigley Field. It's worth checking in because Northwestern doesn't have a home field. Well, they do. It's temporary. It's on campus while their main stadium's being rebuilt from scratch. Anticipating the high demand of the Ohio State ticket, this game's going to be at Wrigley, a little bit of a bigger venue to play at. So yeah, I don't think it's any big secret how this is going to turn out. I think for Ohio State, I think they're hoping for just a crisp, clean first half. Will Howard maybe throws 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Then they come out in the second half and run the ball with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and then get everybody out of there. You know, stay healthy and rested for their next 2 games. They take on 5th-ranked Indiana next week, and that's a game that means everything for both teams. And Indiana's going to be rested and ready to go because they have a bye week this weekend. So I wouldn't get too crazy putting anybody at risk if I was the Ohio State Buckeyes too much longer into that game, which so they should have in hand early on. And then, of course, the week after that for the Buckeyes, Michigan. And you know they want that one. For Northwestern fans, hey, just enjoy a nice, cool fall day, an excuse to hang out at Wrigley Field for the afternoon. That's how I see it. Michigan State is at Illinois. That's the 2:30 Eastern game on FS1. You know, the Spartans look like Aiden Childs and company were starting to put things together about 4 weeks ago when they had their surprise win. I thought surprise win over Iowa. The following week, I thought they outplayed Michigan, even though they lost the game by a touchdown. Then came the Indiana game where they jumped out to a 10-0 lead. So they'd been playing some decent football as of late. And then all of a sudden they surrendered 47 unanswered points to the Hoosiers. Now they've had a bye week to sit on that, maybe figure some stuff out. Frankly, I'm not sure what to expect out of them. This might be the hardest game to pick on our Pigskin picks coming up in a minute because I just don't know what to expect out of Michigan State. Now, for the Fighting Illini, since beating Michigan, they've lost to Oregon and Minnesota. They fell out of the top 25. Then they've had a bye week to think about it ahead of this weekend's game. And, they got games with the Spartans here and then Rutgers and then Northwestern for their final stretch. And this is a chance for Illinois to get to 9 wins plus a bowl win. Now, Brett Bielema has, now I'm putting everything ahead of schedule here, but if they get, they win out and they win a bowl game, Brett Bielema, that'll be his first 10-win season at Illinois. Not bad. It'll be his first 10-win season as a coach since he rattled off 3 straight double-digit win totals as Wisconsin's coach back in the day in 2010 through 2012. Penn State at Purdue. This is another blowout in waiting. You got an 8-1 team versus a 1-8 team, and CBS gets to cover this at 3:30 Eastern. They better have some blowout material ready. Now, Penn State had a nice bounce-back performance after their disappointing loss to Ohio State. They had their whiteout, beat Washington. This week, they're probably, this should be an easy game for them. So Penn State, just take care of business, stay healthy like Ohio State, like I said, and then maybe do a little scoreboard watching as they're still very much in the mix for this Big Ten race with Oregon and Indiana. And I would say Ohio State, except they, lost to the Buckeyes, so not so much with them. But they'll be watching the other teams. And Purdue's schedule isn't doing them any favors. Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, those are 3 of your final 4 games. Ouch. This time last week, during our Pigskin picks, I suggested that Purdue might not score against Ohio State, and they did not. They got shut out. I think they might score a field goal, maybe a touchdown, something like that here. They'll get on the board, but it's not going to be much more than that. That'll be it. The Boilers are staring at a double-digit loss season, unfortunately. All right, the most intriguing game on the schedule, I think, but it's not getting much hype because the teams are in a slump. Nebraska is at Southern Cal. This is at the Coliseum. It is 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Fox. We spent a lot of time on yesterday's podcast talking about this game, particularly the Nebraska situation. If you want to go back and check it out on YouTube or our website, Talk Big Ten, go ahead. But I actually think this is interesting for a few reasons. First of all, Nebraska's trying to avoid a 4-game losing streak here. They lost 3 in a row. And yet at the same time, they only need one more win to become bowl eligible. And they've been sitting on needing one win to become bowl eligible for, 3 games in a row, and they just can't get across the finish line. Second year in a row, too, I might add. Plus, during the break, they hired former Houston and West Virginia head coach Dana Holgorsen. Now, he was going to be a consultant. Then 2 days later, they named him the offensive coordinator with 3 games to go. Weird move, right? But maybe not. They're just trying to do everything they can to get themselves bowl eligible. They got stuck on 5 wins last year and lost their last 4. Didn't make it a bowl game. They haven't been to a bowl game since 2016. USC has struggled as well. I think off the top of my head, they lost 4 out of 5. They're making a change too. They're replacing starting quarterback Miller Moss with UNLV transfer Jade Maeva. Lincoln Riley's just as desperate as Matt Rule to close out the season with a few wins here. So tune into that game. Meanwhile, Rutgers is at Maryland. That's a 6 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Both these teams have been zigzagging across the country lately. It'll be nice. They're in the same region. Rutgers from New Jersey, Maryland, right there. Short trip. Everybody's comfy and rested. Now, Rutgers started the season by winning its first 4 games. Then they lost their next 4. Then they won last week against a red-hot Minnesota team. Maryland is coming off a tough week where they had to go into number 1 Oregon, and they lost 39-18. The Terps' next 2 games are tough. Iowa and Penn State, by the way. Speaking of the Oregon Ducks, number 1 in the country, going for 11-0. They're at Camp Randall, taking on Wisconsin, nationally televised game, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on NBC. It's the NBC Big Ten Saturday night game. So, look, I think it'll be a fun atmosphere and all that. And then I think Oregon's going to start pulling away because the fans there at Wisconsin are great at a home football game. The Ducks control their own destiny. They just want to get to the finish line of the season healthy and ready to go for the postseason. Badgers are coming up a bye week after they got embarrassed at Iowa by 32 points. Again, programming note, after this Oregon-Wisconsin game, this is when we're going to go live here on Locked On Big Ten on YouTube. All the analysis and immediate reaction from you and me. Looking forward to that. Indiana has a bye week. They're at Ohio State next week. Michigan has a bye. Minnesota has a bye. Iowa has a bye. Getting the last rest before the final few games of the season. Since we're here at the end of the week, I've mentioned this a couple times this week, but in case you're not an everydayer, as you should be, you may have missed it. So we've got some great college basketball, Big Ten basketball going on tonight, Friday night. Purdue, ranked 13th in the country, taking on number 2 Alabama. It's part of a doubleheader on Peacock. The other Peacock game is Wisconsin hosting number 9 Arizona. Maryland hosting 15th ranked Marquette. That's on FS1 tonight. And then this will be a great matchup for basketball or football. Number 21 Ohio State's at number 23 Texas A&M. That will be on the SEC network. So hoops and football overlapping is a great time of year. All right, it's a great time of the week. We close it out. We go on the record. We've been talking about all these games and all these teams all week long. We look at the point spreads. We make our pigskin picks. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Speaking of picks, FanDuel. Get in on the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in the place where you put your bets for the NFL, all in one place. Hunch in the middle of the game, want to look up a stat, want to see the score, place another bet. It's all right there. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. You'll get started with $150 of bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Speaking of which, Sunday Night Football, Bengals at Chargers. Chargers are 1.5-point favorites. The number's 47.5. I like the Chargers in this one. I think they want to kind of grind it. Have you noticed that the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh's made them look a lot like Michigan? Less passing, more running, good defense. And the Bengals, they score a ton of points, but they lose. That's why I actually like the over in this game at 47.5. Bengals at Chargers. You can do it too right there at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, it's time for our pigskin picks. We do this every Friday. Close it out here. We go on the record. Strange games, few strange point totals. Let's take a look at it. If you're on audio only, I'm going to put this on screen. I'll describe it in detail for you so you don't feel left out. And I need to, there we go. All right. We'll start off with the Friday night tilt with UCLA at Washington. Washington is a 4-point favorite. The number here is 46.5. First of all, good job by UCLA. All right. 1-3 in a row. And Washington's coming off a bad loss to Penn State. But I'm going to tell you something. Washington is their day and night at home versus away. They really are. And I'm going to give them the home field advantage here. And I think Washington wins this game, ends UCLA's winning streak. Washington will cover the 4. I think the number is right about right at 46.5. I wouldn't get too crazy with that. Maybe it climbs over it a little bit. Meanwhile, Ohio State and Northwestern. All right, what do you do with a 4-touchdown game? Ohio State's a 28.5-point favorite. The number here is 43.5. Again, and I don't know if Ryan Day is going to do what I suggested in our previous segment, get the lead and then shut it down, running game, and get people off the field and get ready. So for that reason, you got to be careful with these numbers. Maybe they won't score as much. But I think at the end of the day, maybe Ohio State wins by 30, so they cover. Northwestern's not going to score a lot. So I don't know if this number gets over. If Ohio State leaves its players in and they play 4 quarters, 3.5 quarters, they could score 50. They could, and then this will be over. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I don't think that's the smart play here. Let's take the under. Michigan State is at Illinois. I told you earlier, I don't know what to do with this game. Illinois at home, -3. I'll take Illinois. Again, sneaky good. They fell out of the top 25, Illinois did. And so I think people kind of stopped paying attention to them a little bit. For that reason, I think, look, they're a good team. They're going to win. They're going to win. They're at home. They'll cover the 3. And Michigan State playing better until they got blown out by Indiana. But the bye week, maybe this is a higher scoring game. Remember, Illinois had a 50-49 game against Purdue. In fact, I just talked myself into it. Take the over at 47.5 here. Speaking of Purdue, they're at home against Penn State. Another one of these 4-touchdown games, 28.5. Yeah, Penn State's going to cover this. Purdue's not going to score much. So unless Penn State gets over 40, 43 points, this is not going to hit the over. And I think it's just a hair too high because Purdue's not going to add to the score. Maybe a field goal, maybe a touchdown. That's it. Nebraska at USC. The Trojans are a 9.5-point favorite, and the number's 50.5. Now, again, Nebraska's been struggling with the offense lately. They got the new offensive coordinator in Dana Holgorsen. If they can't score, this game's not going to hit the 50 or 50.5. But I will tell you this. USC 9.5. That's way too many points. This is a closer game. I actually think Nebraska might be a live dog in this game where they could win the upset win on the road. I think they're going. I'm anxious to see Dana Holgorsen and what he does with Dylan Raiola and company. Rutgers at Maryland. Maryland a 6.5 point favorite. First and foremost, see, here's the deal. Maryland, they got quarterback, that Billy Edwards Jr. kid. He can let that ball fly. He might be. I got to double check this. He might be either the leader or among the leaders in passing in the Big Ten. And so Maryland could score points. Rutgers typically has good defense, but they've struggled lately. I'm going to take the over in this number 51.5. I'm going to say Maryland wins this game by a touchdown and covers. And then the big game of the night, Oregon and Wisconsin, 14-point favorite for Oregon. I think Wisconsin makes it interesting for a quarter or two. Oregon then pulls away, covers the 2 touchdowns, and I take the over on this one at 51.5. So there you have it. We're on the record. Those are our Pigskin picks heading into week 12, college football and the Big Ten. Let me know what you think. If you got a different pick, let me know. Hit me up with the comments, the comments on YouTube, and always appreciate that. Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, and don't forget you can follow us on Twitter as well. And in fact, I'll took that off the screen for just a second. We'll put that right back there. There you go. @X, talkbig10.com. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Don't forget, we are going live Saturday night, Sunday morning. Check us out. And in the meantime, we'll be back on schedule on Monday as we go into week 13, getting to be crunch time here. After this weekend, we got the final couple weekends, and that's it. And then one more week after that. It's rivalry weekend. It's fantastic. This football season is just absolutely flying. Thanks for joining us. I can't wait till we meet again next time. Tell your friends about us. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.